All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Phins Forecast. We are going to talk about a lot today because a lot has happened since the last time we talked to you last Wednesday. For a bye week, guys, it was extremely busy. We saw lots of trades go down. We have the Colts coming up who suddenly just look like they don't know how to play anymore. And then I mentioned the trades, two AFC East division rivals got better over our bye week, which is never something you want to see. So we're going to dive into that. We got to get back to the grades. We didn't finish the grades last week, so we're going to dive into defensive grades, special teams grades, coaches. Oh boy.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that one, fellas. I really am.
Coaching grades. And then we'll talk Tua because we can't go an episode without talking Tua. His timeline to return opens up soon. So we're going to get back to that in just a moment. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Phins Forecast, and I am Anthony Pinzone, your host for this evening. No, you're not seeing double. I am not your usual host. Keith had some family stuff he needed to take care of tonight, so he won't be with us. But I still have the rest of the crew with me. Aqua Ace, a.k.a. Josh, in case you don't know his name. And then I got Steven, also I want to be known as Steve, up in my top left. Hey, guys, how are we doing tonight? Welcome back to the show. How was your bye week? Did you get anything done? Did you actually watch football on Sunday? Like, what did we get up to during the bye, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, bye week was fun. It was a nice kind of reprieve from what has been a rough start to the season, right? I think we can all agree. But some good things coming here in a couple of weeks, hopefully to hopefully revitalize and rejuvenate this team and get us on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that we have not been particularly good coming off the bye, so I'm hoping that things change this year. Maybe we'll see. At the very least, Tyler Huntley got some time with the playbook, so that's a plus.
Yep.
How about you, Steve? What were you up to this weekend?
Yeah, Sunday was a little different. I actually did not watch football. Miami took a bye week, and so did I.
So did Steve.
Yeah, me and the wife, we went to church, we had breakfast, and then we went to a farmer's market that we like to go to. And
I love that.
We started. I know it's outdated. Some people kind of laugh, some people don't. But we started collecting DVDs a few years ago. Yeah, we have about 600 of them, and I'm still old school. I like the hard copy. So we go to this farmer's market, and sometimes we can find them for like 50 cents a pop, and sometimes we'll find like ones we haven't had. And it's a fun little thing we do. So we
love that.
Yeah, we were out spending cheap money.
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the least bit that Mr. Hand in the Dirt likes a hard copy of the movie.
It's fitting. It's very fitting.
Oh, trust me, Hand in the Dirt's coming up today.
My weekend was pretty similar to Steve's, actually. Went to there's a huge, what do you call it, flea market up here, and my brother's been trying to sell like games and stuff on YouTube, so I ended up turning into like his lookout for games that might be worth some money. I don't know how I did, guys. I have no idea what the values of games are. Even as a gamer, you don't just naturally know that. But then Sunday, like I don't know if you guys know, I'm a huge NASCAR fan. It's the NASCAR playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
I don't tend to get to watch it a lot during football season because it's on Sundays, and of course the Phins are on Sundays. But with no Phins game, I got a chance to watch them race this weekend, which was awesome because it was a road course, which means it's not all left turns. They actually have to make a right turn occasionally. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great race. So I was happy to get a chance to do that and watch that this weekend. As they kind of trimmed it down, so that the way that works is they trim down 4 drivers every 3 races till they get to the final 4, and then it's a winner takes all of that final 4. So on Sunday they trimmed it down to 8, so there's 8 drivers left.
Very cool.
They all do race still in the race, but only 8 drivers actually count. So it's getting exciting times. We're almost to the final 4 there.
That's really
but
cool,
that's enough NASCAR. I don't know how many crossover NASCAR fans there are with football, and also the baseball playoffs are happening right now too. There's crazy amounts of sports going on. Hockey started. Basketball.
We're not talking. Soon. Nobody's talking about soccer, man. Or football, like the real football.
Sorry, we're
that's
in America.
My sport
Nobody
of choice.
watches it, dude.
I do.
You know,
I do. I played it. I watch it. I live by it, man.
I watch no other ball sports.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you are a lonely soccer fan in America who doesn't have a friend, reach out to Josh. He will gladly talk some soccer with you. But let's get into football, boys. We had some trades this weekend that could kind of shake up our division. Now, as Dolphins fans, we may not be feeling very good about our chances of winning the division anyways, but seeing teams like the Bills and the Jets find help in the middle of the season is never a good sign and never something we want to see, let's be honest. My friends were messaging me back like, well, what do you care? Your team's out of it. I'm like, first of all, we've only played 5 games. Second of all, I never want to see the division rivals get better, no matter if we're 0-5 right now. So,
with you 1,000%.
Right? So let's jump into it. There's 2 trades that happened. Amari Cooper was traded to the Buffalo Bills for a 3rd and a 7th. And Cleveland sent Cooper and a 6th. The Bills sent a 3rd and a 7th. And then Davante Adams, who we knew was going to go to the Jets at some point, and then it looked like he wasn't going to go to the Jets. And then they were like, never mind, we were just kidding. He is going to go to the Jets. That's a conditional that can become a 2nd if Adams is a 1st or 2nd team All-Pro, or if the Jets make it to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, which I'm sure they would gladly trade a 2nd-round pick for the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, well, they're the Jets, though, so let's be real.
True. So let's start with you, Steve. What do you think? First of all, what do you think about these trades in general? Which one, kind of scares you more? Which team do you think got better with these 2 teams?
Which one scares me more is probably Buffalo getting Amari Cooper. Only because I think Josh Allen is better than Aaron Rodgers right now, obviously. Not overall. I'm not saying overall in the past. This season, right now, Josh Allen is the better quarterback. And, if you look at the last 2 seasons, Amari Cooper and Davante Adams both have had respectively very good seasons for the teams they've been on. And Davante Adams, I believe, he had 1,500 yards just 2 seasons ago. His quarterback situation was obviously different than it was now. He was with Derek Carr, somebody who he has had plenty of reps with throughout his entire career, but obviously in college. But Amari Cooper going to Buffalo is definitely a little bit more scary. I just think it's Josh Allen, you can plug and play a lot more receivers whereas Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams have had plenty of success together, but it's still the Jets. Aaron Rodgers at this point is calling the plays. We already knew that was going to happen. And we as fans know where the ball is going. It's not going to number 1 anymore. It's now going to Davante Adams. And I think defenses are really going to hone in on it. I think the Jets are still going to be the Jets, and the Bills are just going to get them.
Josh, what do you think? I'll go last on this one. I have
I mean, look, absolutely. I think both players are good, right? I think Amari Cooper is the clear better receiver right now, in my opinion, based on situation, based on playing recent playing time and everything. And I think if you look at situationally what these wide receivers are coming into, there is no question. Buffalo is the better team. They're better coached for the most part. They have a better quarterback, in my opinion. They have a better offensive line, in my opinion. They have better supporting cast, in my opinion. They have a better running back, in my opinion. Now, that might be a hot take because Breece Hall, I know, is everyone's fantasy darling right now, even though he's not really producing. But
he doesn't do it for me either.
I don't think the Jets are good in any capacity, right? They're They just fired their head coach. They have a quarterback who's basically an atomic bomb, right? For a franchise who thinks his poop doesn't stink for trying to be
They have
PC
had
here.
amazing success though, and it is still something that we do have to.
Amazing success. The Jets have not had amazing
No.
success.
Davante and Aaron
Oh,
had
yeah, no,
amazing
for
success
sure.
together. Yeah,
But we're talking about a quarterback and wide receiver duo that hasn't played together in what, 4 years, 5 years,
4 years.
something like that,
2022,
right?
I think
don't
3
remember.
seasons.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But Aaron's older. He's got a worse offensive line. He's got a backup play caller. He's got an interim head coach. I mean, like, there's just so many things that aren't in the Jets' favor. And I'm a Dolphins fan. I love to bash the Jets. I love to bash every team in our division. But, looking at the Jets organizationally, they're just a dumpster fire right now. That might be my fanhood leaking in a little bit, but that's facts are facts. And so where Amari Cooper is going into a better situation with a better quarterback, and Davante Adams might be slightly the better wide receiver, I think Amari Cooper is a better fit in Buffalo, and I think he's in a better situation. Just sucks all around, though, if I'm being honest.
I think Amari is probably the better receiver. I think Davante just has had the ball thrown to him a lot more by a lot better caliber of a quarterback in the last couple of years. I don't think Amari was he in Dallas before he went to the Browns, correct?
He was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and that season, hold on, he had 68 receptions in a 15-game span, and
yeah.
I mean the year before that he had 92, but I don't know what the Dallas situation was in 2021, but I do kind of remember the season out of Dallas wasn't a good one.
Yeah, I will say this though: the Amari Cooper is coming onto a team in Buffalo where he is the clear number one, in my opinion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Right? There's no question. I think what does benefit Davante Adams is that he's playing on the opposite side in most cases of Garrett Wilson, who I still think personally is a top 10 wide receiver in this league. If he had a better quarterback and he was in a better organization. Right. So, it'll be really interesting to see how teams hone in on each of those players, because you can only double one person. So you're going to let Garrett Wilson run wild and against the Jets, or are you going to, I'm just real curious to see how it all plays out.
I truly think the New York Jets have one of the best young position cores in the NFL. It's just they can't get out of their own way. I mean, when you're looking at guys like Garrett Wilson and like Braylon Allen coming out onto the scene this year, and Breece Hall, who I still think is a very good running back, has just not been really set up to succeed at this point with new play callers every year, and then those play callers not being very good play callers at that. That being said, I do think that from a pure, I like Davante Adams better from a pure talent perspective. I think he's a better receiver than Amari Cooper. But if you're talking about who's in the better position, I don't think there's any doubt that it's Amari Cooper. This Bills team has been dying without a number one receiver to throw it to, and as much as Shakir has done admirably filling in, he's also dealing with injuries now, and he missed the last 2 games ago. And didn't really make much of an impact this game against the Jets on Monday night with just 2 catches. So, I think the Bills thought they would be able to rely on James Cook and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox a lot more than they've actually been able to. The wear and tear got to James Cook already, right? He's missing time. He's missed the last game. He could potentially miss this game. And Dalton Kincaid has just been average,
pedestrian.
Like he's and it's not necessarily his fault. Josh has admittedly missed him on a lot of open downfield throws, or just missed him completely, didn't even throw it to him when he was open. But you can't, there's not a lot of teams that can rely on a tight end as a wide receiver one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey did it for a long time. Gronkowski did it for a few years.
Hey, I called it earlier in the show that this season was not going to be a tight end season. The tight ends were very slow at starting, and it has still proven me to be right there. The NFL is moving past the tight end position. I saw that. Me and my buddies were talking about that, and I brought it up. I think
they're down across the board for sure. But that being said, I mean, listen, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid probably the best tandem of tight ends that are out there. They're just not being used. So I mean, we're seeing a trend here, right? But the Bills are the best team in this division, right? We thought maybe they would have a down year. We thought, okay, they don't have Diggs and whatever, but they still find a way to win. They come off the two game losing streak going into the Jets. They don't look great, but neither of them did, mainly because the referees took over the game in the second half. It was absurd. Something like 22 penalties or something like that in the half. So it was nuts. So I think the Bills got better. I think the Jets have a lot of other problems than needing another receiver.
And one that they're paying $11 million to, which is absurd to me because it's funny. I don't know what Buffalo is paying Amari Cooper, but it's chump change in comparison.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Jets fans are pretty annoyed by it too. Like they don't have an offensive line. Their play caller was much better Monday night, by the way. But like, still,
this just reeks of desperation to me. You know what I mean?
It does. Their hope, and just listen to the press conferences. Their hope is that Davante is going to come in and teach the young guys how to be what Aaron Rodgers is looking for. Aaron Rodgers wants you to be on the same wavelength as him in terms of, I want you to run the route slower or faster depending on what the defense is showing us, right? I want you to stop a route short and go for the back shoulder if you see this, right? And these are just things that his receivers don't currently know.
Yeah.
And then Snickle Fritz, huge pickup for the Bills. Josh gets a go-to guy, an elite route runner, replaces an elite route runner. Yeah, dead on. And Anthony says that tight ends are obsolete in the new age football. I don't know if I completely fully agree, but they're certainly much less of an impact.
Yeah, they're definitely being phased out, in my opinion, or at least looked at differently, right? So you have most
more
teams,
of a blocker.
Yeah, most teams want that one tight end that's going to be the vertical threat, not be really involved in the passing game, but at least to take to help it
out of the play.
Exactly. And whereas and the other one is the key blocker. So it's really interesting to see where the NFL is going nowadays.
Yep, you'll always have a mix, right? I think, but it's definitely the least amount of like receiving focused tight ends we've seen in a while. You got Trey McBride down there in Arizona. You got Sam Laporta in Detroit, but everybody blocks in Detroit, so it doesn't matter what position you are.
Yeah.
Because
and apparently Detroit might be getting Max Crosby. I
did see.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if it's real or not.
It would be crazy.
I think this was put into the wavelengths by the Rich Eisen show. It was on Overreaction Monday, and now everybody's just been kind of picking it up and running with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see something real fun. Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, somebody in Detroit is definitely making phone calls though.
Oh, for sure.
You have to.
I mean, why not? Right? I mean, Las Vegas is a dumpster fire. They might as well try. You know what I mean? I did see something hilarious though about the Jets. So I saw something come across Instagram, I think, and it was breaking news: the Jets reach out and sign Jordy Nelson.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, at this point.
Welcome in, Nickel City Mafia. When's Tua coming back? We're actually going to talk about Tua a little later on in the show. We're going to do some grades first, unless you guys would rather talk Tua now, and then we can get into it. But
let's get the grades out of the way. I'm excited about these fellas.
Yeah, so let's dive into defensive grades. Last week, if you didn't see our show, we did offensive grades. We graded the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends. The offensive line. We were not very kind. You may want to go check that out. It is on our YouTube channel. Every segment that we do during the live show, everybody does get cut up and released on the YouTube channel in shorter bits if you're more of a short form type of watcher. So make sure to check that out. So defensive grades, guys. The defense has been much better under Anthony Weaver this year, I think we could say collectively. But how have the individual position groups done? We're going to look at defensive line, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, and the safeties. We'll start with our hands in the dirt, Steve.
Yeah.
How is the defensive line looking to you, bud?
Well, DVDs of the defense, if you will.
At that rate, I'm going to pretty much talk about Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer. I think that they've done amazing jobs. I think that they've been the heartbeat of excuse me. I think that they've been the heartbeat of the defense, to be honest. They've put all the pressure on the quarterback. And that's how a defense looks good, when the quarterback has less time to throw the ball, or when the running back has less space to hit a hole. And Calais Campbell has been closing them holes. Zach Sealer has been executing, wrapping people up, not doing these little arm tackles, letting people get away. They're playing big boy football down there on a team that doesn't deserve them right now. They're playing like they don't deserve them. We're happy they're here, but they're definitely picking up the slack for another category I'll get to later.
So what grade would you give the defensive line?
Those two, I give them a B+.
What about the defensive line as a whole?
The defense, that they are the defensive line.
So we'll go with a B+ from Steve.
All right.
Josh, you have been kind of critical in positions where I didn't expect you to be, and overly enthusiastic about other positions I didn't expect you to be, like the offensive line, perhaps. So where do you lie with the defensive line?
F. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I think honestly, the defensive line has been the single best position, offense or defense, in my opinion. I think they narrowly beat out the running back when I did my overall grades so far. I have them at an A-, since we are doing pluses and minuses. I think, to Steve's point, Campbell and Sealer are the heartbeat of that entire defense. Our defense goes as they go. And I think when you look at the injuries that we've sustained at the edge position, now, and with Chubb being out, and then Phillips looking like a rock star until he got injured again a couple weeks ago. So factoring in Phillips's production, if you will, right up to date, and then how Robinson, yes, sack production not there, quarterback hits not there, tackle for losses not there, but you can see every game he's doing something better than he did the last, which shows growth, not exponential growth. He's not the defensive rookie of the year that we all might have thought he might be, Anthony, and but I do think that the defensive line, I don't think it's close, has been the best position on the defense and the best position, in my opinion, on the whole team.
All right, so my grade may surprise you guys a little bit because. And I had a hard time with it because I'm looking at statistics. I'm watching. I've watched every game so far. So to the eye, they look pretty good. Statistically, I don't know how this defense is meant to perform. I don't know if our front 3/4 are meant to put pressure on the quarterback. I don't know if they're meant to stop the run. I don't know what their primary goal is. But I can tell you, with those two particular statistics, whether it's sacks, we rank 26th, or whether it's stopping the run, we rank 18th. If you count yards, if you count touchdowns, 27th. Not very good. So this defense has been put in precarious positions by the offense. I understand that. So there's taking that into account as well. Realistically, though, I couldn't give them higher than a C+. I think that this unit is very good. I think that Zach Sealer has picked up right where he left off, is arguably our best defensive lineman. I think that Calais Campbell has been a very welcome addition to the team. I'm not so sure that we miss Christian Wilkins as much as we thought we would, but it's hard to say because we are switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4, so there's a lot of differences going on here. Chop is playing linebacker / defensive end. I don't know what he counts as. As a pass rusher, he's been disappointing. Jalen Phillips, as a pass rusher, you could see the talent on the field, but production-wise was disappointing, right? We haven't seen Mo Kamara yet. That's in and of itself is disappointing.
Shocking as well. Yeah.
It's shocking. And honestly, it's hilariously enough, Deshaun Hand, this guy just pops out of watching these games more than anybody, under the radar who I expected to pop out at me, is when you see Deshaun Hand just absolutely destroy the center guard, slide right between them and blow up a play in the backfield. That's what I love to see. So I am being a little more critical of this unit than I am of the other defensive units, spoiler alert. But because I do think that the talent here is the best and should be outperforming the other groups. And it just isn't, right? Jalen Phillips, I understand he's hurt, but availability is whatever that saying is, right? Still not
Was it
available.
availability is the best ability or something like that?
There you go, something
Yeah.
like that. But he's still not available, right? So, Tyus Bowser looked good in his one game of action, but how am I supposed to rate that? He's played for us for one game against a Patriots team that has perhaps the worst offensive line in the league. So I'm going with a C plus here. Steve went with a B plus. Josh went with an A minus. I think that puts us around a B for the defensive line cumulatively. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, guys, before we jump into the next group?
No, but I think that's accurate, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little
Awesome.
higher on the defensive line than most, but probably because I'm looking through the lens of nothing is going right, and they seem to be the first line of defense, no pun intended, to at least salvage a season.
Yeah, no doubt. True Phins fan, welcome in, man. So True Phins fan, good to see you back. Good to see Anthony back. Good to see Nickel City Mafia and Mr. Snickle Fritz. I want to give you all a shout out because the four of you are generally here in one way, shape, or form each week. So I really appreciate the support. Phillies Phins fan, he just has a family matter to deal with today, so he'll be back next week. Yeah, so we're doing defensive grades here. Overall, defensive line got a B, a cumulative grade of a B between the three of us. So now we're going to dive into the linebackers. Lots of new names here. Jordan Brooks coming in, replacing Jerome Baker. Duke Riley did return to the fold, everybody's favorite Dolphin. David Long returns. He saw quite a long stint on the disabled list last year, so he's back. And since we are running a 3-4 now, our pass rushers technically, I guess, count as linebackers. So Agba, Bowser, Chop, Quentin Bell, Bradley Chubb, who we haven't seen, right?
Jalen Phillips,
right? So Anthony Walker, another new addition. I want to make sure I mentioned him. We have rookie Muhammad Kamara, who hasn't seen the field yet. So this is the group that we're judging right now. What do we think, Josh? Let's start with you. How has this linebacker group graded out to you through 5 games so far?
Yeah, my grade is not going to reflect how much I actually think Brooks and Long have actually been doing a very, very good job. Again, through the lens of nothing is going right, the defense has been on the field for like 70% of the plays because our offense keeps going 3 and out, right? So through the lens, I think Brooks and Long have been spectacular. You can see the speed, you can see the play recognition, you can see the maturity, you can see the veteran leadership, the tackle ability, the coverage ability. I mean, they're everything you want in a pair of linebackers, in my opinion. However, I have the linebackers graded as a C+, right? I think sack production plays a big part in grading, and it's not there, right? Interceptions, not there. Pass defense, not there. But coverage ability, shrinking the throwing windows as much as possible has been there. And I think it's been a real kind of revelation to watch a Miami Dolphins linebacker core as of late actually be able to keep up with tight ends and slot receivers and the number 2s and the number 1s of the leagues, right? And really shrink those passing windows down to make the throws hard. And you've seen it now. We suck, so we're 2 and 3 right now. However, the linebackers have played a really good role in at least stemming the bleeding, if you will, right? When our defense is out there for 60% of the plays, right? So I have them at a C+. But that grade is not a true reflection of how I feel about them. I just logically I could not give them anything higher.
Yeah, I mentioned before, stats are hard to tell. Like looking at the stats, it's hard to tell how much of this is on the defense and how much isn't. Statistically, we're an extremely good pass rush or passing defense. Is that just because our rushing defense is awful? It's hard to tell. It's like that chicken and the egg thing. But Steve, what do you think about the linebacking core?
Well, our defensive line is packed, even though we call them linebackers. But our linebacking core, talking about these people, Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, Emmanuel Agba, you generally see them people on the line. We are now talking about them in the linebacker section. I think that Agba and Phillips, obviously he just got hurt, which sucks because I think he was doing a fantastic job protecting that edge, and Agba has kind of recreated himself again this year, and maybe even better than last. So,
yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air, man.
Yeah, our linebacker core has been fantastic, even though they tend to not be linebackers. Now, for the true linebackers, in my opinion, who would be David Long, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, I think a little different of Josh. I think Anthony Walker just showed up for one game, and that would have been Tennessee. David Long Jr. had a good he had two really good, fantastic first games. And then after that, he kind of just, I didn't see the same fire. I don't see the same play recognition. I don't see the same. He just maybe he's just a little slow. Something's different in the lot. Something's different, and I just don't think he's playing the same as he did the first two games. Whereas Jordan Brooks has just been consistent. Jordan Brooks has just been if he's not, he should be the captain of that defense. At least the linebacker core, just because the way he's playing as an example, and the other linebackers should look at him and emulate the way he plays. He's all over the place. If he's not getting a solo tackle, he's getting an assisted tackle. If he's not getting an assisted tackle, he's still hitting somebody. He's adding an element to the game that we haven't seen in a while. We didn't see this kind of play from Baker, and Baker was a guy I liked, but he was just a little bit more conservative. And I like that Brooks is a little bit more aggressive, still conservative, still not overly aggressive, not biting on a run that's clearly a pass. At least that I haven't really seen yet. Too bad, or everybody does, but like. He seems to always be by the ball, and it just shows you that he's in the film room, and he's aggressive about what he thinks is going to happen.
Yeah, he's a quick twitch dude for his size. It's wild, dude.
Yeah, people got to start following him. I do give our line. I was very, very pessimistic about our linebacker core in the beginning of the year. I do see that we play 3-4, but I don't believe it. I do think that we're still a 4-3. We're just a rotating 4-3. Which in theory is good, but you don't ever let a guy really get the rhythm. You're too worried about gas tank. And I think when a guy has that thing, you let him in. You just keep him in. Stop rotating these players so much. You kind of take the swagger out of them. These guys have big egos. When you put them on the bench, you're kind of crushing their ego. Yeah, it's for the team, it's for the win, but why are you sitting me? I'm the best player here. That's what they all should be thinking. So that whole rotating players, to me, it can almost be a downfall. But I do give this linebacking core, I would give them a C+ as well. I think I think that's what Josh gave them. But
that's the first time you and I agreed on something. I like it.
I agree. I think, and honestly, I almost gave them a higher grade. I had B- going into it, but I do agree with what Josh was saying as well. And Josh has been a lot more accurate on our linebacking core. So for me to give them a higher grade than Josh would be a little disrespectful as well. Not really disrespectful, but it would be a little, what do I know?
Respect.
So yeah. So I give them the C+.
I just went a little slightly higher than you guys. I went with a B. I think that Jordan Brooks largely stood out to me as just absolute what an addition to this team. Exactly what we needed in the middle that we've been missing for so long. And seeing Anthony Walker Jr. against Tennessee, I got to say, I'm really happy with who we have kind of next man up if David Long continues to deal with his injury or continues to struggle, which I do think he's been struggling lately. I wouldn't mind Anthony Walker just kind of taking a step in there. Wasn't perfect. Let up some big plays, but he's quick. He's just active, right? I love active middle linebackers who get the job done. Two stats that stood out to me, guys. I don't want to be like the stat maven tonight, but this was the one section where I thought stats would be good. We are first in third down percentage allowed. We have only allowed a third down conversion 25% of the time.
Ooh.
14 out of 55 third downs that our defense has faced.
No kidding.
True Fin fan, giving the linebackers a C. Of course he is.
I love it.
Other stat I wanted to point out, we are third in first downs allowed. We've only allowed 82 first downs on the season. That is third. Now, that largely could be swayed by where their positioning is on the field, thanks to the offense.
Yeah, when you're inside the 10, your first down is a touchdown, right?
Exactly, right. But still, we own that stat right now. And the third down one is much more impressive, I'll admit. But listen, those two stats stood out to me. First and third down percentage is absolutely huge. This is not something we would have seen in the past. I feel like third downs was our absolute worst for our defense in the past. I just didn't expect us to ever stop anybody. And I do give a lot of that credit to the linebackers. This linebacker group, like Steve mentioned, that we're not a true 3-4. We do rotate a lot. We have four hands in the dirt a lot of the time. But these guys are just all over the place, covering that short to midfield, making sure that nothing gets behind them at times when it's not supposed to get behind them. I think this is the highest football IQ group we've had in a long time at this position. So I don't think a B is too high. I would love to see them elevate their game even more. The defense, I think, getting even better than we think they've already been is only going to help our offense and help our quarterback situation. So I'm going to give them a B, which gives us a cumulative grade of a B- for
I like it. I like it. And I think our grades so far, and even on the offensive side, do a really good job at reflecting where we are as a team, right? I mean, the position groups that get a high grade, if you will, there's still room for improvement, which is awesome, right? So hopefully we see these grades trend up. And I'd really like, I don't know if you fellas are curious about this, but I'd really like to redo this exercise at the end of the season and see and compare our grades and see if in fact they got better, at least in our opinion, or if they got worse.
I was just thinking, like, if we had done this in the offseason, we were all pretty high on this team. Sans maybe Steve up there.
Steve wasn't.
This, like
I wasn't too bad. I wasn't high on the defense.
We've been humbled fairly quickly as a fan base. Losing your quarterback obviously doesn't help, but this team wasn't very good before we lost him. So, so I think to have us even in the B range on any position group makes me pretty happy right now. Two more position groups to go on defense, guys, then we'll jump into special teams. Let's talk cornerbacks. If we're talking cornerbacks, who are we looking at mainly? We're looking at Kendall Fuller, who's a new addition. We're looking at Jalen Ramsey, who is in his second year with us. Storm Duck, top 5 all-time greatest name. Siren Neal, who is a newcomer. And then Ethan Bonner, who is in his second year with us as well as Steve's favorite player on the Miami Dolphins. He has like 4 different versions of his jersey. It's Kader Kohou. Steve, I got to start with you on this one, buddy. How does the cornerback look?
I'm glad you brought that up. So I actually want to focus the first portion of that on Kader Kohou, and it seems that he has been getting better, than he was last year. At this point in the season, I don't have that many bad things to say about Kader as
did
I
you feel
did
that?
to
Hell just
start
froze
the
over.
season. In fact, I mean, hey, maybe I'll apologize to Mr. Kohou, and I'd like to make it known that I am impressed by the pressure he's been put under. I mean, we do have to remember he's an undrafted player who made the team his rookie year, and he's only been in the league for, I think this is his third year.
I think so.
So, he's 5'10", 25 years old, and he's covering studs in the slot. So, he's still, in my eyes, 35 years old. He's a boy in a grown man's league right now, and he's playing like a big boy. So
yeah, for sure.
He still has plenty growth, but he could, I think he could have learned a lot from last season, and he must have been doing something in the off season other than going to these Miami parties and clubs, because it's showing that he's learning the position, not and the transition to the NFL. So obviously he was overlooked by 32 teams 7 different times and was given a chance here, and he took it and ran with it. Other than that, I am going to say that Fuller and Ramsey, I think they've been absolute studs. There's been a few times where the defense has looked bad, but I think that there's just a lot of problems. I don't think the sync between the defensive backs and the backfield, the safeties, are always in a line. I think that we're not playing to Ramsey's specialty, which he's a great zone player, and that's where I feel like they've been playing him a lot, but he's known to be a lockdown receiver. His island
Corner?
doesn't, yeah, or that's what I meant, lockdown corner. His island seems to be stationary, and he's not hooking onto hips like he used to running down the fields. It seems like they're letting the safeties play that down the field ball, and they're keeping our corners shallow. I don't know how much I agree with this whole zone play that I feel like we've been doing, and maybe it's because we're in such short yardage situations. I don't. That could very well be it, but it does seem like we're getting burned a lot in that aspect. But I do give our cornerbacks a C+ as well.
Okay, C+. Yeah, I never want to see a defensive coach call prevent, and we've seen that a few times already. And it drives me absolutely out of my mind. We talked about that last episode too, where all it does is prevent the win. Like it's just, I just hate that. I hate it so much. But yeah, we have now some blackmail for Steve because we have him saying nice words about Cater Cody.
Yes.
Which we will have to make sure we put on the channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good point here, True Fin Fan. We have a lot of change going on. We have a lot of injuries, as usual. Seems to be our MO. But we also have a lot of potential. Yeah. All right, Josh. Anything more to? I'm sure you have more to add to the cornerbacks, but what are you looking at them grade wise? Who has stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve. I don't think there's really much to add. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I have him at a B+ so far. I think, outside of Fuller getting injured, which sucks, Ramsey and Fuller were really starting to gel, and it was really cool to see. It was a pairing that I was very, very excited about. I thought it was a clear upgrade over the Xavier Howard, Ramsey era, if you will. And I'm just really excited to see what these young guys do. Right outside of Ramsey and Fuller, obviously they're the veterans in the room, but I'm really, really excited to see the continued growth from Cater, from Bonner, and from Storm Duck, who clearly has the best name in the NFL.
Yeah, Storm Duck has been getting a lot more play time than I thought he would. I thought for sure maybe Ethan Bonner would and Siren Neal would get play over him, but they have not. He has been he's been the rotation guy on defense, so that's awesome to see.
I feel like that was a fan favorite pick. I feel like we kind of needed something to cheer for. We weren't doing it. Was kind of a no lose situation. You know what I mean? You put Ethan Bonner in and we do well. Cool. You put Storm Duck in, we do well, and you have everybody chanting Storm Duck and possibly buying Duck jerseys.
I think Mike must like his scrappiness. Like, we don't see this a lot from players unless you see them on a program like Hard Knocks or something like that. But like, the word is this guy's just really scrappy. He's fun. He goes out there with like a chip on his shoulder. He's just one of those guys who's just very like almost like Christian Wilkins, right? He's out there and he's talking smack. He's having fun. He just enjoys the game, and you can see it kind of help elevate his play a little bit.
What's your grade, Anthony?
So I was split right between you guys. I had a B, and I think the only thing I wanted to add to this is that we have this rule at work where we have this 80-20 rule. Is it going to take 80% more work to get 20% more profit, or 20% more, what do you call it?
Gains.
To get 20% better, or is it going to take 20% more work to get 80% better? Now, I love Jalen Ramsey 80% of the time. I loathe him and want him cut 20% of the time. Okay? Jalen Ramsey makes so many boneheaded moves. It drives me crazy because he's such an aggressive player. He's caught out of position constantly.
He tries to do too much for sure.
Exactly. Just do your 111th.
He lets up big plays all the time. We saw it against Jacksonville. They almost beat us because he couldn't cover Brian Thomas in his first ever NFL game. Like, right? We saw it against the Patriots. They're driving down the field. Jalen Ramsey, no big deal. Polk just goes right past them and gets the big chunk play that they needed. So I want to see more from Jalen Ramsey. He has the talk, right? He's got the moxie. He's got the leadership. I want to see more on the field, more consistency on that field so that I don't have to hate you 20% of the time. That's all I'm asking. Is that too much? Since I'm here, guys, I'll start us off with the safeties. I started the safeties off with a C+, and I think mainly because I think that Javon Holland is the only half-decent safety we really have. And even he has not been the Javon Holland that I want to pay this offseason, which we'll talk about in the offseason. He has been our best safety, but that's like saying that the Cherry Mike and Ike's is the best Mike and Ike, right? There's no competition because he's the best safety out there. Jordan Poyer has looked old and slow, just like he did in Buffalo. Marcus May is not even given a chance because we keep him behind old and slow Jordan Poyer. He did get a chance. I think it was it this past week against New England?
Yeah, and he showed out. It was great.
It looked great. I think Marcus May looks pretty good. I mean, he's a high draft pick. He is somebody who was thrown aside, right? That seems to be a lot of our defensive players are kind of built on that. Have had a similar upbringing in the NFL. So, listen, I think that we have a lot to hope for from the safety group. I will shout out Elijah Campbell. This dude does nothing but get better. So I think he was like a large part of why I put the plus on the C.
Okay.
Because seeing Elijah Campbell out there balling out when none of the other safeties are doing a lick of anything has really kind of encouraged me for the youth of the secondary there.
Do you think it's too crazy of a comment to say that he might be the best, the most productive safety right now?
I think he is our most productive safety right now.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, like, if you watch some of these games and you see Holland, like, you're supposed to stop the run, bro, and he just gets completely frozen in the hole. And listen, I get it. He's at the second level. Running back shouldn't be making it to him anyways. But if the running back does make it to you, please stop him.
Yeah. Right? and you're big enough and you're strong enough to do so, right? You know better. Yeah.
30-yard rips are on you. That shouldn't happen. And then nobody else is really worth talking about. Marcus May, get him out there. Get Jordan Poyer on the bench. I don't even know what else to say.
Exactly. Jordan Poyer needs to go to start bagging groceries at Publix. That's why I gave him a C-, honestly. And I know you haven't asked yet, but that's why they have a C- because Holland has the potential. He has the potential to be a cornerstone type player, right? But he's not showing it in a contract year, which is for him, which is I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's scary to me, right? Because you think when a player is going to produce his best and put his best foot forward is when he needs the biggest paycheck.
Yes.
And I think this is his worst season with Miami, in my opinion. And I don't think it's close. When you have Elijah Campbell outplaying you, noticeably outplaying you, I think outside of the game sealing play he made in Jacksonville, he hasn't done much, and it's troubling. But C- for me.
Yeah, and safeties are kind of the running back of the defensive unit, anyways. These aren't guys that typically get paid, and I think True Fin Fan brings up a good point here. It's not a popular opinion, but I'm not paying Holland. I think Holland is a fan favorite, but guys, really quickly, talking today, going into week 7 of the NFL season, from what you've seen from Holland, not just this year as a whole, but obviously the last 2 years are kind of what they tend to get rated on when they go into these contract negotiations. Are you paying Holland the big money, or would you rather put that money towards the often injured Phillips, or are you comfortable letting them both walk and hoping to get some compensatory picks for that, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it fast. I think yes on Holland, not market reset though. I don't think he's market reset value right now. And Jalen Phillips is my absolute favorite player on this team. So this really hurts for me to say this, but I just don't know how you can responsibly pay Jalen Phillips what it's going to cost to keep Jalen Phillips with his injury track record. I think he's only had one fully. Has he had a fully healthy season with us? I don't think so.
No.
So, I mean, Holland at least is on the field. Now, he hasn't been doing crap this year while he's on the field. But if you're going to pay one of the two, you pay the guy that's on the field the most, right?
Yeah. Steve, let me get your thoughts on that, the paying thing first, and then just jump right into what your grade is for the safeties.
I mean, to be honest, this whole skit right here is going to be short because I agree with Josh on the Holland and Jalen Phillips take. I think Holland is overall a more consistent player, or not consistent, but within being on the field, he's a player that you can rely on to earn his paycheck. Whereas Jalen Phillips, you don't know if he's going to be out 8 games and get that whole season check anyway, you know. So if we're talking about paying somebody big money, I want to give it to the guy that's going to be on the field. And you know, Javon might have been having a bad 3-4 game stretch, but it seems like it's in the locker room and it's coming out on the field with them. So whatever it is, it needs to stop. And I think Javon is a better player than what he's been showing this season, minus he won that game for us in Jacksonville. Essentially one of them W's has Holland written all over it. But I mean, we all know that we've discussed it more than once, but it hasn't progressed into other games. And I think it's more laziness, and maybe it's another, these players not liking a coaching scheme. It doesn't seem like the defense is it just seems like the defensive line is relating with this coach, and that's kind of it. But I also think that the safeties, in my opinion, I kind of forget what you guys had graded them, but I'm just going to give them a C right down the center. I like Holland. I'm not saying this with teal colored glasses on, but I do think he's better than what he's been playing. I think we've just seen an elite player playing average, and an average grade is a C, and he's been pretty much the whole heart of that safety core. Jordan Porter's been taking some absolutely crazy angles, trying to even look like he can chase down players. He has. It seems like he needs to take middle school math because his geometry is way off. And Marcus May, like I said in the beginning of the year, is kind of somebody who is just going to be a little bit reckless. Don't really see him being a big factor for us when he's going to be needed. And I know he's going to be called upon. And if I was other teams, I think I would target our safeties, knowing that our corners are probably staying short.
Yeah, so I gave them a C+. I didn't think I would be the highest grade here. Steve gives them a C. Josh gives them a C-, which pushes them right down the middle at a C. Cumulative True Fin Fan gives it a C- to knock it down a little bit. But we're going to go with a C. We're going to keep it at a C. If you guys have grades in the chat, please let us know. Give us the grades. Or if you're watching this later and you have a grade, stick it down in the comments. Tell us we're crazy. Tell us we don't know what we're talking about. We love that. So here are the final grades. Here are the final grades, guys, for the defense. Defensive line, a B. Linebackers, a B-. Cornerbacks, a B. And safeties, a C.
Honestly, not bad.
Which puts our defense, I think, overall at around a B- or a B, something like that. Yeah, so
seems accurate, right?
Exactly what I would expect. Yeah. On the Holland and Phillips thing, I'm not paying either of them at this point. If I'm going to tell you what I think that will happen, just watching Chris Greer over the past few years, I think they will pay Phillips and they will let Holland walk. That seems to be where their value lies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to jump into special teams grades and coaching grades, guys, but we're almost at the hour mark already, so I want to get this done so we can talk about the Colts game that's coming up. I think this is a winnable game, so there's a lot to talk about. Yeah. So we're going to do special teams and coaching grades in like a semi-rapid fire thing. I just want to get one or two comments on what's your grade. Start with your grade, and then like, why is that your grade? Do you have a stat that backs it up? Do you just hate this unit? Whatever it is, let's make this a little bit faster. I'm sure the coaches will take a little longer because there's a lot more to say, but special teams is special teams. Who gives a shit? Nobody likes them anyways. So Josh, we'll start with you as the former soccer player or current. I don't know. What do you think the punters are?
Yeah, I mean, I think the punters actually was The position I was least excited about coming into the position, I think you guys remember I was bashing Jake Bailey left and right. I said, of all the players we could end with, why did we end with him? And he's actually been the best special teams player we have on this team. So I have the punters at a B. And if you want, Anthony, I can go down the list. Punter, kicker, and coverage.
Knock it out. Punter, kicker, coverage, returner. I threw a returner in there. If you don't have it ready, don't worry about it.
That's fine. So which is the same as my coverage unit, which is an F. I have punters a B. I have Sanders, the kickers. I have the B. I think Sanders has been back to the Sanders we know. He's been keeping us in games. That's all you can ask for. Coverage unit has been a disaster. I have him as an F, and I have our returners as an F because I'm tired of watching fair catches at the 7-yard line. Like do something, please. I don't even care if you go backwards. I don't care at this point. Just make an attempt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Absolutely.
Berrios isn't doing crap on offense. So I mean, do something, right? Earn your paycheck.
Yeah. Absolutely. Steve, what about you? Give me punter, kicker, coverage, and returner. If coverage and returner is the same thing, then that's fine too.
The punt unit hasn't been bad. I think me and Josh are on a level where we're pretty much in line. I agree.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jason Sanders, and we were talking about something last week. I don't even remember if it was off course, but it was about paying special teamers. And I'm happy about Sanders, and I like Sanders because he is making a good little check. We're going to have him for 5 years, and it costed us $22 million, but $10 million of the contract is guaranteed. So we're not necessarily married to him, but I'm excited that we get to keep him for a little bit. And I think he is going to help us continue to stay in and or win games. So I give him a B as well. Returner, I think Braxton Berrios is asking to be released at the end of the season with his play. I don't know if he wants to be a Dolphin or what. I know he's got, other ambitions and businesses. Maybe he's, busy diving into those endeavors. And if he is, I wish him the best, but I'm ready for one of these young receivers to come in and take his place at the returner. I give them an F as well.
I was fairly nicer to the coverage and returner unit than you guys, but mainly because we've only had 10 returns. I feel like I'm like an incomplete setup here. So
you can't do that. You gave me shit last year.
I'm not. So in terms of incomplete, I just think to myself, well, I'll give them the average grade, but then I'm like, but Berrios has been crap. So I give them slightly below average, C- for the coverage and for the returner. I do think the coverage hasn't been awful, not as awful as the returning, but it's also not something I can say I pay particular attention to. So I'm not going to go on this whole thing. I don't know. Punting stat I would love for you guys to have. Bailey's been balling, guys. 44% of his punts are inside the 20. What?
Yeah, that's absurd. That's
so I didn't know the numbers, and I wanted to be like, I feel like he's been placing them pretty well and not in the end zone, but I didn't know the numbers on it.
Yeah,
he just seems like he's doing what a punter should do.
Almost 50%. That's wild.
And I have to say, I still only gave him a B- because he is one. He's one of only 6 punters to have a punt blocked. Get that punt out, bro. You got dropped from an A to a B- because you got a punt blocked, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So kicker.
I like it.
Kicker, I gave Sanders a C. I think he's been
wow. Seriously,
he's missed some field goals.
Hit us with the stats.
First of all, the most depressing stat of this entire episode right now. Can you guys guess how many extra points we've kicked this season?
5.
3, 2,
3. We've only kicked 3 extra points.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's depressing. It's depressing. He made all 3, but I'm not giving him credit for that. You should make all 3. 9 out of 12 for field goals, which is tied for 75%. But that's not the part I'm leaning on. The part I'm leaning on is that 2 of those misses are from 40 yards, bro. You got to hit the 40-yarders. True Phins fan giving Sanders a D, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Disagree, fellas.
So overall, guys, we gave the punter cumulatively a B, the kicker a C-, and the coverage is looking like a D-.
Yeah. Well, look, and here's why I went F with the coverage, right? And it's one player. Can you guys guess?
Braxton.
Duke Riley.
Oh,
There you
could
go.
be hit.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Duke's not good
Mr.
either.
Duke Riley, the Dookie man
Oh,
himself.
yeah. I'm
All
glad
right,
we're
guys.
finally getting to him.
Now we jump into coaches
Oh,
because
fun.
we don't want to talk about Duke Riley more. I feel like we
No,
need
thank you.
a psychiatrist class or something
Yes.
on talking about Duke
He
Riley.
needs to go to Disney and just stay there.
So, exactly. So we're talking head coach / offensive coordinator because Frank Smith don't count. It's all Mike. Then we're talking defensive coordinator, which is Anthony Weaver. Then we're talking special teams, who's so bad I don't even know his name. So let's start with the head coach, Mike McDaniel. Steve, hit me with it. What have you given him for a grade so far this year?
Steve is struggling with it.
So I don't know if
We
Mike
don't have an
McDaniel's
hour,
our
Steve,
head
just
coach.
remember.
Yeah, I don't know if Mike McDaniel or Frank Smith is our offensive coordinator, but whoever it is,
It's
needs
technically
to
Frank Smith,
change.
but
Yeah.
McDaniel's calling the plays. You know?
Yeah, no, I know it is Frank Smith. I give McDaniel legitimately I give him a D+ this year. He's had every opportunity to show us that he's able to change, that he's able to be a chameleon to the game. What the game's throwing at him, he has no answers for. He just has the same answers for the players he originally had in there. The game changes when you have a different player in there, and he doesn't account for any of that. At this point in time, it's looking like he's a one-trick pony when he has the weapons he wants, and I'm not a fan of that. I'll save that for offensive coordinator. I'll move it to Josh.
Yeah. For me, did you want us to go down the list, or are we just doing head coach OC?
Yeah, just do head coach, and then we'll
Okay.
come back. Yeah, we'll snake it.
So head coach OC for me, Mike McDaniel's clearly the offensive coordinator. Frank Smith is just holding the title just for pay's sake and to keep him in the house because he's actually a really, really good coach. I have him at a C-, right? I think Mike McDaniel has pooped the bed more than he succeeded this season. I think, and again, for those in the chat and those that are watching, we are grading just this season, not overall, right? I think overall the grade is much better, but this season I think has been below average, C-, and I think it's progressively getting better, hopefully, because you can see that he's not being. It seems like he's not being stubborn anymore. He's changing his playbook to fit his players. He's not forcing his players to play his playbook, which I think is huge, right? We ran the ball 41, 42 times or whatever it was with a quarterback our fourth quarterback of the season in 5 games. Everyone here knows the stats, right? I think it was a breath of fresh air to see a simplified 1-2 read offense, run the ball down their throats 41 times and not go for it on 4th down too many times. If he can continue that throughout the year, even if and when Tua comes back, I think this grade will be much better by season's end.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on that. What'd you give him again, Josh? C-?
C-, yeah.
Piggyback on that a little bit. I gave him a C+, and then the reason being is that I'm a very emotionally reactive person when it comes to football. So if he probably had an F from me in Tyler Huntley's first game, and then in the second game he skyrocketed a little bit. I was just so pumped to see him finally stop all the motion nonsense. Stop it wasn't working, right? So if you can't look internally and see that, that's on you. I know True Fin Fan gave him a D-. I'm a little bit nicer than that right now, but like I said, emotionally.
Looks like True Fin Fan is also emotionally reactive.
Right, yeah. So, if we stink against the Colts, he's going right back down in the gutter, okay? But right now, I'm giving him a C+. I like the changes that I saw against the Patriots, even though it was still way too close of a game that we technically should have lost. We talked about that last episode. I think I was so encouraged by seeing the offense get better. He's in a crap situation. It's not his fault. It's partially his fault, but it's mostly Greer's fault. He's the one that has to bring in the quarterback. So moving to DC, Anthony Weaver. We just talked about defense for a lot of this show already, so I'm not going to go too long. I think he gets a B because I think he's a first-time defensive coordinator. There's some growing pains, but the defense has very clearly been the better unit between the two. So I think Anthony Weaver is sitting at a B right now, and I think I just want to see this unit get closer to dominance, which maybe we don't have the tools for that right now, and that's completely fine. I'm talking over the next 2-3 years if he's still here, right? Give him time to build out his vision for the defense. He's working with puzzle pieces that maybe don't necessarily fit right now. And it's still working. So that's why he gets a B from me. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I got a B minus. I think Anthony Weaver has been a breath of fresh air for this entire team. I think, the only reason for me it's not an A is just because of if I'm being honest and talk about emotionally reactive, I hate prevent defense. I'm sorry. I think it's coward. It's reeks of cowardness. Right. And I understand that he's new to this position. He's not new to the NFL. He should know better. When you are winning a game against a Patriots team and you're playing prevent defense from our 15-yard line, letting them chunk play 12 yards, 15 yards at a time, that's just simply unacceptable for me. So I think he has, and obviously I'm being probably overly harsh for a first-time defensive coordinator. I think he, just like his players, will continue to grow into the scheme. He will continue to grow into his position as a defensive coordinator. And who knows, maybe he might get a promotion here at some point.
He could. Well, I'm hoping not for at least a couple of years, though. Let's actually build this defense into something before that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Steve, what do you think?
I'm going to give Weaver a little bit of benefit of the doubt because of the positions he's been put in, the players he's lost. But I don't know how much I love this defense still. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I know it's still the heartbeat of our team.
You just hate a 3-4, buddy.
Yeah.
If this was a 4-3 defense, you'd be singing his praise. I'm kidding.
No, because at times but at times they look really lazy. At times they almost look confused. And it doesn't look like that there's a whole lot of special tactics or anything going on. It's not like they have these roaming players. It seems like every player kind of has a spot in a position, and it still seems like they're a little confused on what's going on. I'm also, and maybe it's because I haven't paid attention all season to the defensive line, but it also seems like these defensive linemen they're working more independently and not as a unit. Like, you're not seeing one defensive line come over and try to take out an offensive lineman into another to let another defensive lineman do that swing move over the top. It seems like he kind of has everybody playing for themselves a little bit. You see a lot more of the zone coverage, like this is your spot, this is your job. And, you kind of really don't get to, it's more of an individual piece of work there. And I don't think that his defensive play is going to make it that far in the NFL. I think that I love the way Mike Tomlin plays. And I think it's because Mike Tomlin's able to put that pressure on with the schemes he does and the rotations that he has on that defensive line. Not saying bringing people in and out, but that swim, that move, that roll around or whatever that he likes to implement, that left end coming around the back end through the down past the center and the guard. Like, we don't have that in Miami. And maybe it's because we don't have the speed or the linebackers to fill the gap on the end there. But you don't see anything fancy.
Yeah. We definitely have the speed. I mean,
especially
but linebacker, but it's
the size. Maybe I meant to say maybe the size to come in and fill that gap. But it just seems like we're a very basic defense, but we're confused. So I still give it a C.
Let's see. All right. What do you think about the special teams? We literally just talked about them. What kind of grade would you give that unit overall?
Keep it simple. This is
or the
easy.
Coach himself. I'm sorry, the coach. Yeah.
Oh, the coach? Yeah, D.
A D.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a D minus. There's nothing to say, right? I mean, there's really nothing to say here, in my
I had
opinion.
a D plus. So we're all within the D range there for the special teams quarter. Not somebody you want to, not somebody like you really pay a lot of attention to, but when you do notice him, it's usually for bad things. True Fin fan's also an old schooler, prefers the 4-3 over the 3-4. Frankly, guys, I don't actually care. Is that a controversial opinion that
No,
I don't care?
I don't care as long as the defense is good.
Right. Yeah. But because I think it's because that the defenses are kind of a mirage nowadays, where they line up in all of the formations anyways. So I don't know. I think the puzzle pieces are missing a little bit there. All right, boys. So we are at an hour and 10 minutes. I do definitely want to get into the Colts, but we also said we were going to get into Tua. So I don't know. Do we think we have the wiggle room to talk Tua and then get into the Colts? I want to give the Colts game its due, right? We need to give the people what they came for. And that's
I mean, I'm happy to skip the Tua conversation.
There's
I
not
had
a whole lot.
Go ahead.
So let's just do quick, and we'll cover it in more detail next week.
Yeah.
We're going to simplify the Tua thing, just like Mike McDaniel simplified the offense. So the topic everybody wants to talk about is Tua coming back? His window of opportunity to come back starts at week 8, so he couldn't come back this week even if he wanted to. Do we see Tua in week 8? If not, when do we see him? Josh?
Yeah, I think we see him in week 8 against Arizona. And the only thing I had to really talk about on this topic that I thought was important for the listeners and was important for me to kind of digest the rest of the season is that let's say we squeak out a win here against Indy, which I don't think is going to be an easy game.
No.
That puts us at 3-3. If Tua comes back against Arizona and we happen to catch Arizona traveling to us and they just, they're kind of they're either all in or all out. They don't really know what they are. That puts us at 4-3. This becomes a 10-game season, fellas. With Tua back, with rejuvenating, getting our star, or if you will, quarterback back behind center. I think. Are we going to win this division? I think that's pretty much out of the conversation at this point, with Buffalo having wins against us and the Jets already. But I think there's a very, very, very plausible scenario in which we get into the wild card, and then it's just a 1-game series, and anything's possible, right? That's really all I had to say about it. But I do think that Tua comes back for Arizona. I think he comes back as soon as physically possible for him.
Steve, what do you think?
I hope he comes back for Arizona, but I think he's going to practice. I think he's going to practice that week, and I think we'll see him week 9 after Arizona.
Steve, we're talking about practice? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, practice.
Oh, you're going to bring him back against Buffalo, though?
Well, that's
a
tough too.
Return to the
field.
field.
It doesn't get easy, though. We don't have an easy stretch.
No, it doesn't. No, the rest of the season sucks.
I'm almost afraid. I want him to come back. I think we can win coming back, but we don't. So our offensive line needs to pick it up, man. Like we have. Sorry, I didn't mean to slam this. I know that probably echoed, but like, if Tua comes back, that ball either needs to come out in 2 seconds, or we need to have seriously an extra line, like an extra tight end just blocking as a lineman at all times. Like
it's not like he got hurt because of the offensive line. He got hurt.
No. But
he forgot how to slide.
Yeah. At any point, I've held my breath every sack. I just do. It just
every sack I always hold my breath with him because you never know.
It may be weird to say is I actually don't anymore. I feel like that he falls way better now that he's done
for sure
classes. Like his rookie season in his second year, it's just like it was a sack of potatoes that was thrown from the Empire State Building the way he fell. It was like, where did you learn to fall, dude? And now it's much more like a roll, like a hedgehog rolling up
videos
and defending itself. I am in agreement. I really hope he comes back against Arizona. I think that is another winnable game with Tua at the helm. That team is in a bit of disarray right now. I don't know what's going on down there. I don't follow the Cardinals, but things have been rough for them. So it's a winnable game if Tua can come back. And then it gets a little tougher. Some of those games we thought were going to be tough have softened up, right? Vegas has softened up. Cleveland looks awful. I think we could.
What a dumpster fire, dude.
Maybe we can beat the Drake May-led Patriots. I don't know. We barely beat the Jacoby Brissett-led Patriots, so we'll have to see about that. But I do think he's going to come back. And I really hope it's week 9. Or week 8. That's where I want to see him back. Mike's recent comments suggest to me that maybe that's not the case.
That's why I wasn't thinking that either.
But you guys know he wants him back. As soon as Tua gets the clear, he's going back on that field. Mike is not dealing with more Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson if he doesn't have to. Right? So I don't fully agree with that, true Fin fan. Let me throw that up on the.
I got
Yeah.
it. I was waiting
It's
to you
still for
took
a
a
Marino
breath.
type of gunslinger because I think Tua is it's a timing offense, and
That's
Tua
exactly
is
what it is.
the best timing quarterback perhaps in the league. I don't want to go that far because
He is, and I don't think it's close. He really
I
is.
think Mahomes is very good, but he's more of an improviser. So like, it's listen. There's nothing that's gonna fix that. This is a dangerous game. I think this narrative that the media likes to run that guys should retire as soon as they get hit or say get a bad boo boo or get a concussion. These are grown men who make their own decisions. You can feel that way if you'd like, but this isn't your child. This is a person who's going to make the best decision for him and his family. These are competitors that more often than not are not going to hang it up. And this is a game that is inherently very dangerous. So to expect a guy to be able to go out there and not get hurt, I mean, Marino was hobbling around on one leg most of his career. So like, it's just because it's the leg compared to the head is the difference in the conversation there. Aside from the fact he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, so I don't think we're putting Tua and Marino in the same conversation yet. But yeah, I think I am completely on board with him if he decides to come back. I'm completely going to support him if he doesn't decide to come back. But all 100%. Signs are pointing to him coming back.
Yeah.
Would you guys like
we
to
move
talk
on to
about
Indy?
The Indianapolis Colts.
Let's do it, fellas.
All right, let me tell you a story about the Indianapolis Colts, fellas. They have this quarterback by the name of Anthony Richardson, who played right down in Gainesville, Florida, for the University of Florida Gators. Didn't look particularly good in Florida, I thought, but gets drafted in the first round of the NFL draft by the Indianapolis Colts. Looks fantastic for 3 games in his rookie season before he breaks his shoulder in 72 pieces. It was probably a ligament thing. Let me exaggerate. Okay? He comes back this year. Hasn't looked too hot. People are like, man, he hasn't gotten his rhythm back. He's been out of football for a year. He's not looking too good. So in their infinite wisdom, they signed Joe Flacco to back him up. Flacco's been playing the last, let me look at this, the last 3 games. And Flacco's looked okay.
It's the super sub.
Pretty good. He hasn't thrown for a ton of yards, I'll tell you. But they're 2-1 with Flacco in the helm, and they won the game that he came in Chicago against a red-hot Chicago Bears team, which is now 4-2. One of their losses is to these Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson is expected to be back this week. Given his struggles and understanding that his strength is running the football, he can escape anything. Instead of starting off with initial thoughts, I want to start off with, do you want to see Joe Flacco or do you want to see Anthony Richardson? Steve, I'm going to start with you.
I don't want to see Joe Flacco. I think Flacco goes off anytime. Not anytime. Flacco likes to just go off, whereas Anthony Richardson hasn't been the guy I thought he was going to be this year. I was really high on the Colts this year, and I believe I had Miami losing to them, a healthy Miami losing to them when we did the schedule in the beginning of the season. I don't exactly think that's the case anymore. I'm not going to give a prediction or anything, but I don't think that Anthony Richardson poses the threat that I originally thought he was going to impose this season. He hasn't looked very accurate. He hasn't made good decisions, and he's once again looking a little fragile. I imagine Indianapolis Colts fans hold their breath when he gets sacked as well, but their backup is much better than ours, so maybe not as long. Yeah, I wish we would have got
shade Flacco. At Huntley, man. Shade at Huntley.
Yeah,
I think we all at this point wish we would have got Flacco.
Yeah.
So Josh, who would you rather? Who'd you rather? I feel like we're playing a game of
right. Who would you rather?
Would you rather face Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson? True Fin fan says he would rather face Richardson. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I don't even think it's close. I agree with True Fin fan. I agree with Steve. I'm assuming not to play Nostradamus, but that you probably agree too. I think Richardson is the more volatile player. I think he has a higher ceiling than Flacco, obviously, right? Flacco's been in the league for 387 years. But but I think Joe Flacco is what he is. He's a super sub, right? I mean, he's the guy that you don't want to see come off the bench when your starting quarterback gets injured, or when the opposing starting quarterback gets injured. Sorry. I think Richardson is, like I said, the more volatile player, if that makes sense. So, he may come back and look like the all-pro he was in those first 3 games of his rookie season. Or he could come back, which is what I think is going to happen, and look very pedestrian, very much coming off of an injury, very much frazzled, worried about, seeing or hearing ghosts or whatever the hell Sam Darnold said that one time or whoever it was.
Yeah, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, or whoever it was. And I think him being in at quarterback actually favors Miami much more than if it was Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco's a tried and true veteran. He knows you're not going to surprise him. You can't throw something funky at him from a defensive scheme standpoint and expect to frazzle or confuse him. Richardson, on the other hand, in my opinion, you certainly can.
I'm going to agree. I think it was a little bit closer for me in this because while I think Joe Flacco has been very good and he's much better at getting the ball to his receivers, I think if we had a full complement of our defensive secondary healthy, that we could get to him and because get some more coverage sacks, I guess is what I'm going for here.
Mm-hmm.
Given the injuries, though, and that our linebacker group is actually relatively healthy, I think that's the better unit to focus on who's going to have a better day here. And I think they have a better day against Anthony Richardson because he is pushing the ball downfield, but only on Hail Marys, it seems. He's not hitting those mid to just slightly deep routes in the middle of the zone, right? He's going home run or dump it off. Just like a young quarterback should do in his 5th start or whatever the heck, how many starts he has at this point. This team has had a tough schedule. I'm not entirely sure what to believe about the team. 29-27 loss to Houston. That's a good performance against Houston. Houston's a good team, right? 16-10 to Green Bay. Again, that's a really good team. You kept it close. You held them to 16 points. Then you beat Chicago and Pittsburgh back-to-back. You'll lose to Jacksonville somehow. What?
Well, by the transitive property, we're better than them because we beat Jacksonville. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding. I'm just...
And then they beat Tennessee 20-17, which again, the transitive property, now we lose to them. So
yeah, right, fair enough.
So we're just going to break even. This is going to be a tie game. That's a long-winded way of saying that I would rather see Anthony Richardson, but pointing out the fact that they have had a tough schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule doesn't get any better. So I'm not entirely sure how good this team is. And we'll get into that a little bit more right now.
Well, don't forget, and before we jump in, and I'm sorry, but just in case I forget to mention it, I want to mention it while it's fresh in my mind. They very well we could be facing 2 rookie offensive linemen, right? Was it Kelly is out at the center position, which might force them to start Tanner Bortolini, I think is how you pronounce his last name, who has not, I don't think, played a single snap.
Yeah, so
and they have Tucker at right guard or right tackle, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah, Will Fries is on IR. Ryan Kelly is questionable. Braden Smith at right tackle is questionable, which would put Matt Goncalves.
Yep,
I don't know how to say that into the start. All the Pittman and Downs are also listed as questionable. Also, their 2 starting running backs are both listed as questionable as well.
But JT is supposed to be playing, which sucks.
He did say though that he wouldn't tell you to put him in fantasy.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm going up against them, so hope that's true.
There's a chance. All right. Let's dive into these matchups, guys. They have a very good offense, a defense that once upon a time was good, but doesn't so much look like it anymore. So we're going to do what we normally do. If you're new to the show, we dive into matchups. We go to each person. They talk about the matchup they're most looking forward to in this game. It could be anything. It could be coach versus coach, coach versus media. It could be offense versus defense, wide receivers versus cornerbacks. Literally, the floor is wide open. You can do whatever you want. Steve, I'm going to you first, buddy. What is the key matchup or matchups that you're most looking forward to in this one?
I would like to see how our offense plays against the defense. I don't want to see another defensive drug-out battle. I think Tyler Huntley has had a good couple weeks to get some reps in with Tyreek, with Jalen. I was seeing reports that Mike McDaniel was saying that Monday was a really good practice. It seemed like some of these guys were really starting to come together. And, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of it was tough, it was good, and it seems like we're making some sense here. And if that's the case, I want to see the offense really start pushing the ball against this defense. I don't want to see matchups as in this defensive line versus the offensive line, only because I want to be able to know that the offense is clicking, the ball's coming out quick, we're making decisive decisions, the running backs are hitting the holes with conviction. Like, I want to see a straight up offensive unit that's oiled, well maintained, coming off a bye week, ready to play a team that they've had ample amount of time to prepare for. And I think I'm right on this one, and we're going to see that.
All right. Taking the entire offense versus the entire defense. But I'd have to say I agree. Their defenses look like they've been struggling a little lately. But from a points per games perspective, they're keeping it middle of the pack. So we need to try to raise that up a little bit. True Fin fan says he's looking forward to Jonnu Smith against that defense, as well as Jalen Wright. These are two players that are up and coming for the Miami Dolphins. Both have had big games in the against New England. Last time we played, I almost said last week. We didn't play last week. But both had big games against New England. Jonnu Smith has just gotten better and better and better and better as he's learned the system. He may be one of those tight ends that we were talking about earlier on in the show about being like a receiving threat at tight end. And Jalen Wright, we all love Jalen Wright.
Well, I will say this, though. Achann's supposed to be back, so I'll be curious to see how Mike McDaniel splits the carries, right? Because Raheem Mostert looked like a machine last game.
I would love to see Jason Sanders double his field goal attempts this game.
Yes, agreed.
All right, Josh, let's kick it over to you. Steve's looking at the offense versus the defense. Are you looking a little more inward, or are you going defense versus offense?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm going a position by position / position, if that makes sense. So I am looking at linebackers versus our linebackers, versus their running back / tight ends, right? I think that is what is going to, in my opinion, looking at analyzing this game and trying to get a prediction ready, which I know we'll hit at the very end of the show. That was the linchpin on the victory on the victory or the loss for me, was how our linebacker core kind of kept the running backs and the Indianapolis Colts' running backs and tight ends in check. I think they're banged up at wide receiver. Their offensive line is basically half rookies and other half, they have one known commodity, right? And Nelson, can't think of his first name, on the left side, but Quentin, thank you, Jesus. Yeah. But I'm not too concerned about their wide receivers. They do have some talent there, right? But they are banged up, and some of them are coming back from injury, and so on and so forth. But if JT plays, or I can't think of their backup running back, but he's not
Trey Sermon.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Trey Sermon, dating back to college at Ohio State, he can do some damage if you don't close the lanes on him. So I will be very, very curious to see how our linebackers do versus their running back and tight ends.
All right. So listen, I had Jonathan Taylor down here as well, so I completely agree with you. I think if Jonathan Taylor plays and is even a modicum of healthy, that's a problem for us. Okay.
Big
Our
problem.
rushing defense is awful. So not only does that allow them to score more points, but it allows them to control the game, right? They control the clock, you control the game. I think that's the old mantra, something like that. But I like the tight end call out because you guys tell me if I'm crazy, but doesn't Mo Alley Cox seem like a Dolphin killer to you?
Yep.
Like,
absolutely. Dating back to Jacksonville.
The perfect blend of size and speed to absolutely destroy us. In the past, at least, we have new linebackers now. Maybe Jordan Brooks keeps up with them, but he hasn't been hugely involved this year. But this is always like Dawson Knox for the Bills always crushes us, right? Like, this is one of those guys that comes in and just destroys us because for some reason we forget about him. So that's a really good call out there. Where I'm going to differ, though, is I think the receivers are a problem. I think this is a very good young wide receiver core. I've heard lots and lots as an avid fantasy player. I have heard lots and lots of talk lately about how a lot of people are actually thinking Josh Downs is the wide receiver one, not Michael Pittman. There is a large buzz about that right now, about how Josh Downs is actually the better receiver, which is pretty scary because I feel like Michael Pittman's a pretty good receiver. He's coming from great lineage. His father played in the NFL as a running back for the Arizona Cardinals. So, and then they just got this kid, Alec Pierce. All he does is catch 60-yard touchdowns.
Ugh,
what are we the most susceptible to on defense? 60-yard touchdowns, guys. We let up all
Jordan Poyers
constantly. Jordan Poyer's going to get smoked if he's left out there alone with Alec Pierce. So, and listen, if they play Anthony Richardson, that's what we have to watch out for, right? Because Anthony Richardson is going to sling that ball, and he can probably throw it 90 yards from his knees. This guy's got an arm. So, Alec Pierce, I think, is like the unsung guy to watch because he could absolutely break this game open. And what I think is going to be a low-scoring game, because I think all Dolphins games until the Tua gets back are going to be low-scoring games. I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm looking at, though, is our running backs against their rushing defense. They allow 155 rushing yards per game. That's 31st in the NFL.
Oh, that's promising.
We rushed for 200 yards against the Patriots almost just a week and a half ago. If we can get the three-headed monster, and I don't care if it's a three-headed monster, I don't own any of them in fantasy because I don't draft Dolphins in fantasy. So if we can, Josh does. So if we can get Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane or Achane, however you say his name, and Jalen Wright moving against this team, then we control the clock. Then we control the game. And then maybe we can get a touchdown because those are very few and far between for us lately. So, three extra points at least. Do we have more than 3 touchdowns? Yeah. So I'm looking at the receivers versus our secondary, which is a little bit banged up. I don't know if Fuller's playing this week. Is he on the injury report? I know.
I haven't looked at the most recent one.
I haven't looked at it yet. I know Jalen's playing though, and Cater's playing. So Cater versus Josh Downs is going to be something to watch.
It's going to be scary. I'm
nervous.
nervous.
Get smoked a little bit.
He's going to get smoked.
If you have Josh Downs in fantasy, I would play him. But Cater has been getting better, like Steve mentioned. So I think that's where we really need to win this game. That's where we saw Mike improve last week when he ran the ball damn near 40 times. We need to run this ball against a team that can't stop the run, a defense that is struggling, and we just need to dominate. We don't. I know that we have a lot of fancy tools in the tool chest, but we don't need to use them in a game like this. In fact, I would say put them away. They'll be fine. They'll be okay for when Tua gets back. All right. We don't want to get them dirty. We want to keep them pristine. We'll sell them on eBay later. But run the ball with your very tiny running backs who happen to hit the hole at the speed of the flash, and let's dominate this game on the ground.
Yep.
Don't let the Colts win it. We have to take control of the game.
And no prevent defense, Wheeler.
Please don't run a prevent. Wheeler, I will find you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I will.
Josh will find you. What? Yeah. Where are you?
Over.
You're up there somewhere. All right.
Whatever.
All right, guys. Let's get some predictions before we go ahead and close out the show. I will start this time. I haven't started too many segments, but I'm going to start the final predictions for this game. I had us losing against the Patriots, and they proved me wrong. I have us winning against the Colts, but it's a very low score. It's a very close score. I think it's 20-17 for the Dolphins.
Oh, close. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Josh, what's your prediction? What do you see happening here?
Yeah, my prediction, 20-20. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's a lot of scoring early, and then both defenses lock down, and it's a lot of 3 and outs. Ugly, nasty football that none of us like to watch, but wins you games. And I think it's going to come down to Jason Sanders, in my opinion. Right? I just there are some things about this Indy team. Their defense is very kind of like no name, lunch pail, hard hat, kind of just show up and get the job done. Sometimes just enough. So it'll be really interesting to see, right? And I really do think that the linchpin in this victory is that Mike McDaniel doesn't get impatient. And we have sort of a repeat of last week where we run the ball 38, 40, 45 times. and we just grind this one down.
Absolutely. True Phins fan who has been a bit of a Nostradamus here in terms of calling the scores to games. Believes that we're going to lose this one by 2, 14-12. Does that mean we're getting 4 field goals and no touchdowns? Don't wish that upon us. Don't wish that upon
That's hilarious. This is hilarious.
Oh my god! I hope I'm finally wrong. I hope you are wrong too. Steve,
Yeah,
what do you think? You think True Phins fan is right or wrong?
I think he's wrong. I'm much more optimistic. I think with the time off that we had, the little bit of break, the extra reps that Huntley's been able to get, some of our teams getting healthy. Teron Armstead's just resting. Calais Campbell's just resting. A-Chain's coming back. Cam Smith's going to be able to play if we are playing him. It seems like we're getting healthier rather than being where we were in week 3, kind of unknown on what the team's health was looking like. And I think that's going to play out. I think these players are ready for Tua to come back. I think they've been seeing a bunch of other AFC East teams losing, so it's making their morale a little bit better. I think this I think this game's going to be a little higher. I would love to see 27 from Miami, and I think it's going to be 27-20.
That's what I had before I changed it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, 27-20. I told you, Josh, we're on a wavelength today.
Yeah, we're in sync, baby.
Yeah, I think we can do it though. I mean, we have. I think we have the healthier weapons this week. Is Jalen or Jalen didn't go out last week, did he?
No,
Waddle.
I think the only 2 we have potentially missing is Armstead and oh god, there was one.
Armstead's playing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so there were the only 2 that didn't practice. There was only 2 guys who didn't practice, so we're pretty healthy.
Well, Armstead and Calais Campbell didn't practice, and only because they were resting. But Teron passed all his concussion stuff last week.
Yeah, but he'll only play fucking 15 snaps before it goes back out.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably see our boy Patrick Paul come back in.
I love that young man.
Yeah,
I want to see him anyways. There's no way he's not better than some of those guards in there, man.
I was gonna say put him in for Jones.
No,
why aren't we?
I'm gonna be honest with you, fellas. I kind of love it because one of the biggest things, in my opinion, that sets offensive linemen back when they come into the league is look at Eichenberg. He came out of college as a left tackle at Notre Dame. He gets shoved at the right tackle. Never played it before in his career. 5 games in, he gets put at right guard. Then he gets plopped in at center. Then he gets put back at right. Players need time to settle into a position, right? So I'm fine. Just leaving him at left tackle. Leave it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So let's talk final thoughts, boys. Final thoughts can be anything. It could be a bold prediction. It could be a joy to the world. It could be a shout out to anybody you want, or it could be about this Colts game. I don't care. So Josh, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts going into week 7?
Yeah, final thoughts. I'll start with a bold prediction, right? And I think this is going to make a lot of you guys smile and laugh and probably roll your eyes a little bit. But I think that both Chop and Mr. Mo Kamara have a sack in this game. That is my big bold prediction. I know Kamara is apparently on the injury report, so
he was limited.
Yeah, might have been blown up already, but I'm feeling it, man. I really am. Other than that, though, final thoughts are I just want to see a healthy game. I'm tired of seeing at the end of the game we have 5 starters that are injured in some way, shape, or form or limping off the field. I want to see a victory, and I want to see us healthy because I really do think that if we can pull out a victory here, which by no stretch is going to be easy, we go into a game next week against Arizona. I know we already talked about this, where Tua might be back. Might galvanize this entire fan base and this team, or those that like Tua and the team. And I think just from a sheer electricity standpoint, we pull out a victory. And I don't, spoiler alert, I'm already calling a victory next week, and I don't think it's going to be close. And I think then it's a 10-game season. And I think then we just buckle down. We're 0-0 going into the final 10 games, and anything's possible.
Started last year with 10 wins, didn't we?
Yep.
Something like that. All right, Steve, what are your final thoughts going into week 7 here?
I want to see that discipline. You know, we only had 6 penalties in the New England game, and I want to see that transition over to this game. I don't want to see us beat ourselves. We've done a really good job of that. We've done a really good job of kicking ourselves when it counts and kicking us again when we're down. So if we can get away from, being dumb and playing and keep on playing clean football, I think that Sunday will be a nice, relaxing day after 1 o'clock. I will be watching the game with Keith. I'm making a nice
Love that.
pork barbecue crock pot meal for him and his wife, and hopefully we'll all be able to get back together on here on Wednesday. And if Keith, that you're watching, you're all in our thoughts, and
Absolutely.
yep, we hope that you are able to, do what you need to do before you get back on here. But we hope to see you soon, and you will always be a huge part of this show, and can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, buddy. I'm keeping your seat warm, although I'm standing, but it is still your seat. Don't mind how warm it is. Just ignore that, okay? We'll see you hopefully back next week. True Fin fan, I kind of agree with Fin fan here. Can Mike McDaniel stick with the run? That leads to a win, in my opinion. And can Tyler Huntley just continue to get better in this system? Those are the two things I'm looking for in this game. I'm praying for a dominant game. I would love that. Not too hopeful of that yet. But if we could just see a good, clean game like Josh mentioned, like Steve mentioned, where we run the ball and Tyler Huntley just looks a little bit better than he did last week, I think we'll be okay. But Dolphins football is back in week 7, guys. I cannot wait. I will be chatting with you all over the weekend, and we'll see your beautiful faces again next Wednesday, everybody. I don't know if we're doing a reaction show on Sunday yet, so stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram.
We'll send an update. We'll send an update to everyone on social media.
Right, we'll send an update. You can just search for Phins Forecast. We'll pop up right there. And you can also find the socials in the description to this video down below. So until next time, guys, this has been the Phins Forecast. Lovely seeing you. We will see you again next Wednesday, hopefully celebrating another Dolphins W. Later.
Fins up, baby.